Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Game Master Solutions. This is GMKC, and today we are here with our 9th podcast. And today, my guest is, once again, my good friend Ian. How you doing, Ian?
Hey, doing well.
Today, our topic is one-shots, and more specifically, how different DMs use them differently. Before we get into that, though, for our newer Dungeon Masters out there, I will go ahead and break it down for you what a one-shot is. So a one-shot is a game that is designed to provide a complete independent gaming experience from start to finish. It's a self-contained D&D story where you sit down at the table, the story is told, and by the time you guys are finished that evening or day or whatever, the story is done. Now, Ian, do you like to use them?
I love to use them, and props on that definition. That's a really good one.
Mm-hmm. Now, in my use for them, generally speaking, is I use them, one, to introduce new players, people who never played D&D before and they don't want to commit to any kind of long-standing game. But that's rarer than the other use for me, and that is I use them to break up long campaigns. So, if you spend a couple months playing in a single campaign, occasionally you want to play a different character, mix it up, throw someone different in. Now,
those are really good options, actually. I love introducing new players or even players who haven't played in a long time. Be like, okay, we got to get you playing. Let's just throw together a one shot. Let's have some fun.
Mm-hmm. It's also good for players who tend to get attached to a certain class, and it really, I like to make those players. You got to play something different.
Yeah, I like that. Plus, another good benefit of a one-shot, if they do get attached to their characters, like this is a setting where like anything can happen. If your character dies and goes out in a blaze of glory, that's totally cool. Like, we're just playing this one night. It's not going to ruin your campaign.
Right. It's good drama. It's evocative. When a character dies, in a long-standing game, it's sometimes perhaps a letdown. But like you said, in those one-shots, it can go out, like you said, the blaze of glory. Now, before we talk about actual examples of one-shots we've done, I want to pick your brain a little bit. We've talked about this briefly. Tell us exactly how do you get away with what you get away with the one-shots?
Oh, you must elaborate. What do I get away with?
That you sort of, it's like the meme, right? With the guy floating in space.
Oh my goodness.
He says, "Is this a campaign setting?" It always has been. Yeah.
I've never seen that meme until now, and now I love it. Yes, but for some reason, I do like using one shots a lot, and I always preface it like, "Hey, let's just get together. Let's do a one shot. Let's have some fun." And for some reason, it happens a lot of times. Everyone's just clicking. The chemistry is there, and people are like, "Well, I want to see what happens next." Let's keep it rolling. So it turns into another session, and then pretty soon you got yourself a whole campaign, which has happened a couple times now. But probably the best example is our Death Force campaigin that started.
I didn't know that was started as a one shot. I came in like 3 or 4 sessions late.
Yes.
But and I couldn't tell. And had you been spinning that up and like doing some background work in the off chance that one shot would become a campaign?
I had not, but how it came to be was I was on Twitter, and there was a D&D creator doing a call saying like, "Hey, can anyone play test my adventure? I'm about to drop it on the DM's Guild, and I'd like some feedback." And so I responded, I was like, "Yeah, sure, yeah." And I think the caveat was like, "I'll give you like the adventure for free, once it's published and stuff like that." I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I did like an all call. There were a couple of friends, and then most of them were responding to the ad like on Roll20. You know how you can do that, and you can like put a listing for players. And I said, "Hey, it's a one shot. It's playtesting this adventure." And then we had a few players show up, and it was called, you can actually buy it on the DM's Guild now if you want. It's called Heart of a Hero by Kelly Mangerino. It's actually on sale right now for $1.49, which is a steal because it might lead to some of the greatest gaming memories that you ever had, like it did for us. But basically, the one shot was about let's see here. Culford's acclaimed ranger has gone missing. Villagers blame the hag that lives in Rook's Wood, but the two had had a steady truce for years. All that remains is the ranger's raven familiar, and it's prepared to guide those willing towards its master's last wish. So they're investigating this murder, or she's missing. They're investigating what happened to this ranger. Turns out her heart had been removed by Orcus cultists, and they find that out, and they find that sometimes the Raven Queen's chosen can serve her after death, even with their heart removed. And so you're starting to see like the threads of where the Death Force campaign went to. Yeah.
And spoiler alert, we ended up fighting the gods of undeath,
Yes. Right? Yeah, because at the end of the one shot, they're like, well, what do you mean that's it? Like, these cultists are out there. What do you mean? They're like trying to raise this Orcus guy back. This guy's bad news. We got to stop him. And so after that, they started recruiting heroes. They started recruiting Ojax and his father from New Hemlock and the Rainwood and everything like that. And they have all these allies, and they eventually became the Raven Queen's chosen, the new Death Force, essentially. And then we eventually got to 20th level. I think it was like a 6-month campaign or a year campaign. It was a while. It was a long time, but it was a blast. But anyway, GMs out there, it can all start with a one shot. So never be scared to jump into it.
And it's like you said, I want to point to another example of an amazing game that you ran it was a one shot called Murder on the Eberron Express.
Oh yeah, I have that written down too. Yeah.
Right. And I was a player in that game, and I was just thrilled. Like, you really told the hell out of that story, man.
Well, thanks.
And at the end of it, I don't know if you remember, but we had some drama and some reveals. And like you said, I was itching. I was inclined to continue playing that character and continue playing that campaign. So maybe we'll see some tricklings of it in our current Eberron campaign.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it is an Eberron, and everyone like GMKC here says, you should definitely check it out. It's on the DM's Guild. It's called Murder on the Eberron Express. It's only $5.21. There's like a Christmas in July sale going on, so definitely pick it up. But this one shot is very unique. This adventure is very cool because each player going into it gets an archetype. There's like the lover, the spouse, the artist, the scholar, which I think you played, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all these different archetypes. And at the beginning of the session, you roll a die and you find out who the secret murderer is. And so even like getting up, everyone makes their character. No one knows who's actually going to be the killer until the session starts. And I told everyone, okay, I'm rolling the die. And then I dropped the die. I'm like, oh man. And then I secretly told everyone, I was like, okay, you're not the killer. The next person, you're not the killer. Next person, you're the killer. And they're like, oh man. And so it was a lot of fun because there's a lot of tension. No one really knew who to trust. Usually in a regular adventure, it's the party versus, the enemies. And everyone knows in the party, you're all together. But this one, adding that betrayal mechanic, it really, really set the tension up.
It did. And something interesting to point out to that is the concept of a one-shot opens you up to the possibilities of all of the players not getting along. In a long-running campaign, you really need everyone to be on the same team. It's like, even if the characters bump heads, they can't be at each other's throats, actually throwing attacks at each other. But, dude, in that one shot, that one person was the betrayer, and, there was a throwdown, right?
Yes, the one person was the betrayer, and once it was finally revealed, everyone was like, oh my goodness. And so the one player runs to the back trying to escape. The rest of the party runs after him trying to stop him. And then the big reveal at the end, Casey's character betrays the rest of the party. Like, he had a link with that character, and everyone, even me, like, gasped. We're like, and like, it was one of the top 5 gaming moments, right?
Hell yeah,
awesome.
Dude! I was stoked to be a part of it. Stoked.
It was very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Any other one that you popping out?
Well, so really, I have written one or two little one shots before, and the times I have deployed it, I have had players who wanted to keep playing with those same characters. And so I've been able to hook them a little bit, but I've always expressly used one-shots for individual purposes, never to start campaigns. And I need to take a page out of your book, because I can think of at least 3 campaigns that I have started and they just fizzled out. And whether it be from player disinterest, the deadly schedule, right? But it I guess perhaps maybe put a little bit of undue pressure on those groups, maybe to my expectation of continuing the ongoing game.
But that is a good thing about the one shots, because it doesn't have to continue. It can just be, like you said, it can be that self-contained, and you guys have a good experience. Maybe it's almost like, like a blind date kind of thing, right? You have a good experience, or, it's fine, but you don't want to continue, and that's cool too.
Really good, really useful when you are playing with people who you aren't necessarily close with, or people you have never met before. So it evolves into that kind of blind date. Like you said, you're trying out the game, you're trying out the setting, you're trying out these new people too, right?
Yeah. And I do have one favorite other one that I really love to use. I think you played it before. Bastion of the Frost Lord is one of my favorite adventures.
It's so good. Yes.
It's by MT Black. He's very prolific on the guild. This adventure is on sale, $2.21 right now, $2.21 right now, if you want to grab it. But it's such a good adventure. It's so well written, and it's so like sandboxy, but as linear as you want. Like, he gives you a lot of options that you can do. But basically, it's this man, his daughter's been kidnapped by a mysterious, malevolent force, maybe the Frost Lord. So the party is hired to track down, and they end up going to this land of this plane of ice, and they there's puzzles, there's combats. It's super cool. It's very, very good. And didn't you use this one? Didn't you?
Yes, and I enjoyed playing through it so much when you ran it that it inspired me. I would say that, so I started running D&D, I think in like 2013, and I started writing my own adventures in 2013. So we're talking, 7 years of me just making my own junk the whole time. That Bastion of the Frost Lord was the one that inspired me, and perhaps some of your storytelling as well got me convinced that, man, these pre-made campaigns, you can really take them these pre-made adventures, you can really take them and do a lot of great things with them, a lot of creative things. And I ended up feeling more inspired as opposed to stifled. And I was able to, in fact, when I ran it, I ended up calling it, what did I call it? It's originally called the Bastion of the Frost Lord, and I think I called it like the Castle of the Fire Lord or whatever. And I made it all like, instead of ice and winter themed, it was like brimstone and fire themed. And instead of a sleeping, spoiler alert, instead of a sleeping Yeti, there's a sleeping dragon. And,
I when you told me that, I was like, oh man, what a cool idea. I never even thought of that. Yeah, It's very cool. The other thing, one other tip that I do to try and make these one-shots like as spectacular as possible, I try to get as much character details from the players as possible. Like if they have a long lost, kid that they don't know what happened to, I try to add that as much stuff. I try to put that into the one shot as possible. Because it's a one shot. You can literally do anything. So why not throw in like the big bads or the people that were in these characters' backstories and make it happen.
Or, do something supernatural, like the gods get involved, or like a wish is granted or something, and the world is irrevocably changed, and that's fine because you're done with the story.
Yeah, in fact, that did happen in From Dusk Till Dawn. One of our characters, it was very dire. Like, they had to survive, and there were just waves of enemies coming at you guys, and there was a really cool creature from the Tome of Beasts I pulled it from. It's like a monster book. And it's called like the Lord of the Hunt or something like that. I don't know if you remember this, but it's like a stag centaur kind of guy, but he's like headless, and he like holds open the head, and so you guys were getting like stunned, paralyzed. But the one cleric, his dwarf, prayed to Moradin, and
the divine intervention.
The divine intervention, and Moradin's like avatar came down and like saved the day. It was wild.
And it was satisfying too. It quote unquote broke the game, but it was so dramatically fulfilling that it's nothing but positive memories about it.
Right, yeah, and you can't really break the one shot, right? You could break a campaign if if you're every session you're like, Morden, come down.
Time for the help of God.
Yeah, exactly. So I could see in a campaign and be like, oh man. But yeah, during one shot, it makes that epic climax even, takes it up to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have one last tip is once you guys have this amazing one shot, and I love to go around and get an epilogue from each person and okay, what happens, to this character this year in a year later or 10 years later, what happens, because it really kind of bookends the adventure, and it, like you said before, it really completes the story.
After the final battle is what happens to your characters, tell us, and then everyone gets a chance to tell the end of the saga of this character that they've used in this adventure.
Yeah, and if you're really feeling it, you can do the thing that TV shows do where they're not sure if they've been renewed yet, but they add one last little cut scene where a hand pops out of the ground or something like that. So if they are feeling it, you can continue the campaign, but if not, it's just okay, that's a good ending spot and everything.
Or the dead bad guy, his eye opens and it's
yes!
Something like that, yeah.
Yes, or the chair turns around and it's oh, it was that person this time, yes. There's tons of ways you can do it. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a way of sort of doing that sly hook to your players. The guys who say, oh, I'll try D&D. I'll just do one session. And that little yes. end is the end question mark.
Yes.
It brings them back to the table.
I love it. Okay. There's one more one I want to shout out, or a couple more. I mean, there's so many great adventures out there. If you're in Gothic death mode, there's an intro to Curse of Straw called Death House.
I've heard of Death House.
Yeah.
I've heard it's particularly challenging, actually.
It is very challenging. It's level 1, so I like to beef up the players level 2, even level 3, because there's some scary stuff. People could die in the Death House, of course, but that's also a really good one for maybe Halloween or something like that. If you want to get your friends into it, they never tried it. The one I ran for my family members to get them into it for the first time is called Mystery at Dreary's Well, and it's a pay what you want adventure by Lucas Cockerham, and it's literally a classic D&D adventure. You guys meet in a tavern, you get hired to track down a jewel, and you go to the town, and then obviously things are a little more than what they seem, and then there's a big bad reveal. It's cool, but again, that was another one that kind of started with my family members, and they're let's do this next week, let's keep on playing. And so that was the Philosopher's Stone one.
Mm-hmm.
That they find. The jewel ended up being that, and we went on from there. But one shots are great, guys. You guys really, you can't go wrong with it. Yeah. Anything else about one shots?
I think that might be all we have for today.
Well, this podcast isn't a one shot because we're gonna keep it rolling.
Oh, I would add one more thing. The upcoming GMKC adventure one shot will be being play tested soon, so keep an eye out on the GM's Guild for that.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you're interested, hey, type in the comments. Maybe maybe you can play test it with us.
Hell yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you for stopping by, Ian.
Anytime.
I hope I get to talk to you more about D&D topics soon. This has been GMKC with Game Master Solutions. See you next time.
See ya.